In this video, I'm going to do HTML Basics Part 1. We'll have multiple parts here. Okay, so the plan here is to go to the HTML section at W3 Schools. We'll sort of follow along in the same order that they're using. The first couple sections here we'll put in one video, and then we'll sort of keep going through here, and I'll add in a little bit to this. So if you're following along, you should consider this as a reading assignment. These sections are pretty short, and they all have try it yourself buttons. Okay, I'm not going to follow along in the video here. We'll make sure that we cover the key points, but our task will be to do a simple HTML file that uses some of these basic tags. I'm going to start with logging into the server. I'll use my permanent account, and I have things set up so that it doesn't actually ask me for a password there. You can figure out how to do that sometime later. Go into the directory where I keep stuff for this account, for this class, and right now get rid of these tilde files. Right now all we have is the empty.html, so I'm going to copy this empty.html, and the running example that we're going to do is our study guide in HTML. So I'm going to call this basics1 study guide.html. Okay, so the empty, if we look at that, so if we look at the empty, this has the doc type, which says that it's an HTML file, HTML tag, and end tag, and head. So these sections here, which we'll talk about, you can use this as a starting point. I'll show you one other thing before we start looking at those tags. There's something called the HTML Validator, and if you search for HTML Validator, this is what you'll find. And you can put in, this is my empty file, you can put in a link here and ask it if your file is correct. It says that this one has no errors, which is a good one to start with. Just as an example, I'll give a file that does have some errors. So here's one already. In the previous version of the empty, we didn't have this. Now if I use that one, which, what does that do? I'll say in a second. But if we take it out, then let's see, I need to do the chmod. Okay, try that again. Basics 1, okay. Alright, so it loaded the file, and it says there's a problem that it doesn't know the character encoding. And the character encoding, so if we look at empty, it has this meta char set equals UTF-8, and so we'll discuss character encodings later. For now, this says that in this file, how does it know if it's looking at the raw binary data that is in the file, how does it know what characters they are? There has to be some rule, and this says what the rule is, and that's the standard one that'll be fine for us. We'll come back to it later. Alright, for now you just need to know that that has to be there. I can put some other errors in. So that's one error, but if we look at the file, let's see, basics 1 errors, it still loads fine. This is an HTML file with some errors. Okay, technically there's supposed to be a begin and an end. They're supposed to match up like parentheses. So if there's a P that's a start tag, then there's supposed to be a P that's an end tag. If I reload this, it displays fine, but if I check it on the validator, it's still just giving me that one error, so it says that's alright. Alright, let's say we do what happens if we do this. So an end tag is supposed to be less than / body and greater than. So if you take out the greater than, it's technically not correct. Shows up okay there. The browser does its best to display it. And here it tells us that on line 12 in column 2 there's probably a missing greater than, so it actually knows what the problem is, and if that's not there, then that causes other problems because it's trying to think that this whole part here is one tag because it hasn't seen the greater than yet. Okay, so there's an error. How about if I put another paragraph in? Paragraph. Hello. Paragraph. Okay, that's not a tag that I think will work. If we try to check that, it says element paragraph is not a thing. If we go and look over here, it actually displays okay. It doesn't show as a paragraph. So it does matter if you use the right names for the tags. Sometimes you can get away with things and it'll display sort of okay, but if it's not correct, if it doesn't check out as correct, then you never know how the browser is going to display it. Alright, so one rule is we'll put here rules of HTML. There will be various rules. The important ones, make sure it validates as okay on the let's see, where is it? The W3. We'll just say on the validator. Okay, if it validates, then you have some confidence that it'll show as correct. Alright, so those are some things that we got already messed up. Now let's look at our basics 1 study guide. Okay, so these are rules that you can write down. I'm not going to keep notes here on these precise details, but you can. Maybe we'll put it here. I won't put it in the Google Doc. So I'll put here basic HTML rules. So tags are in less than and greater than. Begin tags don't have the slash, end tags do have the slash. And I'll actually have to do something with this less than greater than because this is an HTML file and it's going to think that I tried to type a tag there. So to get this to work right, one way to do it is like this. Let's see how that looks. I want to do basics study guide. Okay, there we go. Alright, so a tag is something that's in between less than and greater than, and begin tags begin and end tags end, and most types of tags are supposed to have a matching begin and end with content in between. we'll do it like this. Okay, so those are some things to remember. HTML file, the file always has an HTML tag to begin and an HTML tag to end. There's always a head section that has metadata, that is information about the page but not content to display, and then a body which has the actual content. So I'll put here tags. So you say HTML is for the entire page, head is for metadata, that is data about the page, body is for content. So inside, most of our work is going to be inside a body, some of our information is going to be inside of head. So these are just brief notes, and we could look and see what this is going to look like. So you can think about how's this going to display if I go over and refresh my page. Okay, everything's just jumbled together. So this is a basic HTML rule that I'll add here. White space is white space in the text file. Doesn't matter. The tags have to say when there should be breaks. So if I want this to be its own paragraph, I have to use the tags. And P is a good one. Okay, so I'll start off like this. The P is for paragraph. So if I want things to be separated into paragraphs inside the body, you have a begin, you have an end. See how that looks now. Alright, so each of those items are now in their own paragraph. Inside the head, right there, we have the title. Title, and meta is for extra information. So that'll be enough for that right now. Inside the body, we have P for paragraph. So that is for just separating things. H1 up to H6 for headings. So I will have H1, if I put here basic HTML example and study guide. Alright, if I go over and refresh, what do you think it's going to show? A basic HTML example and study guide. That is the browser deciding that it wants to show something that's in H1, bold, and this size. I didn't specify that. HTML doesn't specify how things look, it specifies what is the content. And the content is, this is the first level heading. The bold and the underline that you see there is not real. That is my Emacs editor highlighting it like that for me because it understands HTML a little bit. If I want to view this as view the page source, most of the time you can right click. That's another view of the text file itself with line numbers, and the text editor here in Firefox is also doing some colors for me, but it's not showing bold underline on that. Okay, we're over here. Close that down again. So that's H1. H2 is probably going to be smaller. H2, basic HTML rules. Put that like this. And then I could put here H2 tags and see what it looks like. So that's a little bit smaller than this one. The browser gets to decide that. And I don't have to worry about it unless I don't like what the browser's doing. I don't need that now tag since I have a heading. We'll put here an h3 inside body. And now I have that as a heading inside head. And I could choose whether I like the text file itself to have blank lines or not. It doesn't affect how that looks. Okay, so I can go all the way up to H6 and it'll sort of look reasonable like in a website that has headings. Okay, we can check over here. Basic HTML tags, we have HTML that begins the document and ends the document. Head is for the metadata. Title is for the title that shows up here. So I should probably make that more descriptive. The title for this is a basic HTML example. I'll just leave it at that. So if I go and refresh, what's going to change? The title goes up there, and that's again the browser gets to decide to do that. Okay, we've got H1 through H6 and P, and title and body. All right, leaving out the body, that would be a common mistake. Let's see, I'll put here basic HTML rules. Let's see, what did I have for my, okay, why don't we put here common mistakes. I'll just list some common mistakes, leaving out any of the following: HTML, head, title, body. So you could leave them out. You can try that out yourself and see what happens, but if you leave any of them out, that is a mistake for sure. Begin tag with no matching end tag. So for example with my P. Let's see. Leaving out the less than or greater than on a tag. Leaving out the slash on an end tag. These are all syntax errors. Let's see. We'll just say mistakes. Okay. All right, there we go. Let's go over here and see how we're doing. If we go to basic HTML, you can read that. Body, headings, paragraphs. They have links and images, so we'll add that into our list as well. A is for anchor, but it's used for links, and IMG is for image. So we'll have H2 for more information. So see the way this works. So this is the first one where we get to see an attribute. So A is for anchor, and you would have a begin tag and an end tag. Let's do it like this first. So CW3 schools. All right, let's see what that looks like if I refresh. You can make a guess. Okay, so right now it's just showing W3 schools. Let's check it on the validator. Basic 1 study guide, and see what other mistakes we might have made. It says that's okay. All right, but it's not an actual link. So to make it an actual link, we have to include what's called an attribute. Href is for hyperreference, and then quotes, and inside of quotes you put a link. So I could put here this link. Okay, so now there's two parts to this this link. This is the actual link itself. That's given by the Href attribute, and then in here is what the browser displays. So there it is. It shows up as that, and if I hover over it, that's where it would actually go. I'll say, for more information, some cool tidbit that you now know. So this here, the fact that links have a separate link they go to from what is displayed is used by clickbaiters, email spammers. For example, let's say I do this. Go to I'll just do it like this. So let's say I refresh my page now and think about what's going to happen with that link. Okay, some cool tidbit. For example, go to the link there. Looks like indstate.edu login, but then if you actually click on it, it's going somewhere else. And so this is used in email. And email can be in HTML, so people can try to trick you. HTML, never click a link in HTML without hovering over to see if it actually goes to what it says. Right? Okay, there's the hyperlink. Now we want to put an image. What image do we want to put on here? We'll just put something. Why don't we take this image here? Okay, we'll take that image, a Terre Haute. It's not a bad one to use. And finally, this is Terre Haute. Image, I believe it's like this. We're going to try it. Let's say there's different things we can do here. Let's just try this and see what it looks like. Okay, there's an image. That was Terre Haute a couple years ago anyway. Alright, so an image, the key thing is you have an attribute that's a source. So the anchor needs to have an attribute called href, and you have equals, and then you have double quotes. And we can add here to our common mistakes, mismatched quotations, missing attributes. Those are common mistakes, or misspelled attributes. So for an image, you have the location where it's coming from, so that's it. And then you can have some other extra options to say how large. 100% is going to be 100% of however big the window is. So if I shrink this, it shrinks the image. I could have also put 100 pixels, and then it would be 100 pixels wide. And if I put a height on here, I believe it will stretch it. So that's stretched. If you only put a height OI width, then it'll scale it. So normally you would want to do one or the other. Alright, let's see what else. Right, elements are another name for the tags. We have paragraph, P, they have BR is another tag. Some cool tidbits. A BR here. So BR is for a break. That's kind of like hitting enter in your. So if I look at my page here, with a paragraph, it'll go ahead and resize everything, but since I had a BR right there, that's always going to go to the next line. So that can be used for spacing, and if I put 2, you can think what will happen. Well, either it's not going to have any more effect because there's already a break, or it's going to give more space. And it gives more space. So if we want to force a break, we could do it that way. Okay. All right. And then let's make this big again. So attributes, we've already seen a few. They suggest using the lang. We could put that in. It's not bad. Into our empty. Into the body, I believe. No, into the HTML. Lang equals ENUS, which is what I'm using. Okay, that gives a hint to Google, for example. There's the title. We're not going to. Okay, so the title tooltip. We'll put this in here. We'll put in isn't Terre Haute great. Okay, so we can see what that does over here. So that was a title on the paragraph, and you can always do that, and the browser can decide to do something with it or not. It has to reload here. And doesn't appear, so yeah, if you just hover just right, there it's coming up. Isn't that exciting? Okay, that's an attribute that's always available. The width and the height we saw on an image. You normally want to give an alt Terre Haute, which if somebody is viewing it and for some reason they can't look at the page or can't look at the image, it'll display this text. And you should read the rest of this information. Headings, I just want to make sure we didn't miss anything important here. Horizontal rules we can use. So if I have an HR here, what do you think it's going to look like? So the browser puts a line there. So we'll add to our notes over here things you're supposed to know. We have a BR and HR. Put HTML here, basic tags, and attributes. So title was one. Href on an anchor. SRC on an image. Width and height on an image. Alt on an image. We're just keeping notes of everything that was in here. We have a little reference there. Paragraphs. Alright, so they have one more tag here to add to our list, which is the pre-tag, which is pre-formatted. Okay, so finally some cool tidbits. If I do, let's do this as pre. Does this look like code? Does white space mean something? Tune in next time to find out, or something. Okay. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so a pre-tag is telling the web browser that you're typing something that should be like code. Notice that it actually paid attention to my spaces, and if I put an empty line there, it actually took it into account, whereas if I put an empty line in here, it doesn't matter, because the rule with HTML is you're giving the content. You don't specify how it looks by your text file. Your text file should look nice to other programmers. Okay, so there is our basic HTML file. There's one other thing that they said over there. You can normally, if you right-click, view the page source, and you can normally also inspect element. This is something that we'll be using a lot, and I'll show it how to do it in different browsers. This is Firefox right now. But if I right-click on some part of the page, inspect element, I get a view down here of the website, the whole layout. So the source is there, but then it's also broken down into parts. So I have an HTML inside my head. There's the title, which is what I had in my code. There's that meta tag. Inside the body, I have all my different things. There's a paragraph and the stuff inside of it. And each tag here, or HTML element, can have different properties. And depending on the browser, I could actually make a change here. And it'll, let's see, will it let me? No, but I could put in here, title, hello there. And it actually puts that in. Let's see, hello there. So some things I could actually change here without having to save my file. Let's see, maybe the image. Can we change the width? That's 50 pixels. I want to make it 50%. I can change that there. I could also go over here and change it and then refresh, but so it could be faster to try some things out this way. We'll be looking at this a lot more later. Okay, so that's it for part 1 of basic HTML.